Gender and Society.
Greetings, I am Chihiro Palisbo, your third reporter, and together with my companion Dame Charlene L. Pactons, we will be discussing about the basic concept of women in society and the right to education. Basic concept of women in society. A great deal of debating goes on concerning the role of women in society. How is it that in today's world, where everyone preaches about the value of equality, women still do not occupy the same social, economical, or political position as men do? Women try relentlessly to mark their presence outside their kitchen and laundry rooms, yet in the same relentless manner, they are being reminded as of true calling of their nature, which limits their perspective for a much more fulfilling life. Whether women ever stood equal with males on physical and intellectual level, in the eyes of the society, we don't know. Sure, in every era, there are heroic and powerful women, but although equal of men, they become his inferior due to pregnancy, birth, and etc., forcing them to look to men for protection and economic assistance. This dependency, especially economic dependency, became the basis of women's slavery, which often existed and still exists after the dependent condition was long gone. In almost every family, man would be the sole provider for the entire family, and although this task comes with an enormous amount of responsibility, it gives men a sense of power. A such established thing was then hard to abolish and became very troublesome, where it was only a matter of time when women wanted to break free from this system. So today, women still do not occupy the same value of equality when everyone is preaching for it. Whether women try harshly to mark their presence outside their kitchen and laundry rooms, yet in the same harshly manner, women are being reminded as to be a woman, which is to be pregnant or to bear a child, which limits their perspective for a more fulfilling life, and because of pregnancy, women became men's inferior and forced to be dependent to men, which that dependency became the basis of women's slavery. Women tend to blame men for their position in today's society, but they cannot be blamed individually. Women's role was accepted as a condition, a chain of customs, a tradition where woman was a male's property. Throughout the ages, women were perceived as emotional, deceitful, illogical, vain, and weak-minded. All of the characteristics desired by men who wished to limit them. Over the years, that stern view has toned down to be a desired ideal of a feminine woman. Women have made vast improvements in their lifestyle in the past few decades, from holding positions in governments to simply things like getting a job and supporting themselves. Men have a tendency to leave their wives due to the fact that they had their child and the father was not committed enough or not ready to be a father. Women are faced with more responsibility than men, but also are faced with a lot more problems than men because they are looked at like a woman, a bearer of children. It is a fact that men should not abuse their wives, and it's true, but they still are. Thousands of legal cases of domestic violence are seen throughout the country. Abortion is also another problem that women are faced with. Morality is an issue with this, as women are sometimes not ready to be a mother, and their husband or boyfriends have already left them. Men usually just walk away from the situation, but women have to choose to either have the baby or have it aborted. Women blame some of men for their unfair position in the society. When women rule as a male's property were even accepted as a condition or tradition, They say women is emotional, vain, weak-minded, or whatever. Over the years, that harsh view has become a desired ideal of a feminine woman. In the past few decades, women were created huge improvements from holding position in governments to simply getting a job. Because of men, women face a lot of responsibilities and problems. Women even face abortion. This is how a responsible man is for walking away from the situation. Role of woman in the society. The woman, whose status and role traditionally was well defined and almost fixed in the society, is now experiencing far-reaching changes. The woman in modern times is entering into certain new fields that were unknown to the woman's sphere of role sets. They are activating, participating in social, economic, and political activities. The modern women are inclined towards the social issues and trying hard to improve the social status of women at large. Increased awareness and education have inspired women to come out of the four walls of the home. Many women actively supported and participated in the nationalist movement and secured prominent positions and offices in administration and public life. Traditionally, women exist because of the family and for the family. Just like their man counterpart, women are also fond of attending social functions and value her social life quite a lot. Previously, men folk used to discourage women from leaving their households and attending social functions. Now the spread of education, especially that of women, and with that, the changing social attitudes of educated women have changed in order. The modern woman had started caring for health, figure, cultural needs, interests, academic pursuits, social intercourse, religious activities, recreating needs, and etc. So, what is the role of women in society? Today, women is entering certain new fields. Women do full-time jobs in improving their social status. They participated in the nationalist movement and caring for their health and body. They are now engaging in work fields to explore inner talents and to become independent and earn for their own. Next is role of woman as a wife. Role of woman as a wife. Woman as a wife enjoyed a status ideally almost equally to that of her husband and performed both social as well as biological functions. Even today, the girls are still brought up on models portraying selflessness, denial, and sacrifice. The desire for mutual affection and love beginning to appear in the conception of their relationship with their husbands. The husband-wife relationship has become more equalitarian in character and more companionable. More freedom of choice in marriage and thus an companionship to the change in the form of the family. So, role of woman as a wife is to be a companion to her husband. Next is role of woman in politics. Education of women has not only helped them to become aware of the political problems, but they are gradually becoming active participants in the political life. Some are enrolling themselves as members of political parties, attending public meetings, conventions, and carrying out political programs. Some women are attaining the influential political stature of their own and have become instrumental in shaping the public opinion for the betterment of women's condition in society. So, role of women in politics, education helped them to become open-minded in the political problems. Women participated themselves in politics and even become the instrument in placing women's issues for the betterment of women's condition. And lastly, role of women in socio-economic activities. The woman in modern times is entering into certain new fields that were unknown to the women's sphere of rule sets. These are the women's participation in economic, political, and social life. The modern woman keenly desires to enter into work career because of the pressing economic needs of the family. In middle-class families, much emphasis given to the maintenance of high standard of living. To fulfill economic requirements of the family and to achieve the higher standard of living, the woman participates in economic activities. So here, women participate in economic activities such as business, agriculture, and as domestic workers to support their family. Our next topic is right to education. The right to education has been recognized as a human right in a number of international conventions, including the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which recognize a right to free, compulsory primary education for all, an obligation to develop secondary education accessible to all, in particular by the progressive introduction of the pre-secondary to higher education. Ideally, by the progressive introduction of free higher education. Today, almost 70 million children across the world are prevented from going to school each day. Female education is a catch-all term of a complex set of issues and debates surrounding education. Primary education, secondary education, tertiary education, and health education is particular. For girls and women, it includes areas of gender equality and access to education and its connection to the alleviation of poverty. Also involved are the issues of single-sex education and religious education, in that the division of education along gender lines as well as religious techniques in education have been traditionally dominant and are still highly relevant in contemporary discussions of educating females as global consideration. The right to education also includes a responsibility to provide basic education for individuals who have not completed primary education. In addition to this access to education provision, the right to education encompasses the obligation to avoid discrimination at all levels of education system, to set minimum standards, and to improve the quality of education. The right to education means that all people are entitled to a free primary or basic education regardless of gender, socioeconomic status, or other factors. It has been universally recognized as a basic human right since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 and has been included in several other treaties and conventions since that time. National governments are supposed to support the implementation of this right by including its constitution and laws, as well as providing needed funding. Advocates of the right to education see it as an equalizer to open up opportunities for many of the world's citizens. Although many considered it to be targeted to children, the right to education applied to all age groups. It suggests that everyone is entitled to a basic level of schooling, referred to as primary or fundamental education, and that further levels of education should be available and accessible to all. The right to education has been universally recognized as something all individuals are entitled to. It has been acknowledged as a basic human right since the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the United Nations. It also included other important treaties and agreements such as International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. The obligation or responsibility for fulfilling the right to education falls primarily on the national governments. These governments are supposed to enact laws requiring universal education and provide the necessary financial support. Compliance is evaluated by using criteria known as a framework, which stipulates that for the right to education be beneficial and useful, it needs to be available, accessible, acceptable, and adaptable. Availability is defined as being free to all and supported by government funding, and accessibility means that anyone can participate without discrimination. Acceptability refers to educational content being relevant, appropriate, and non-discriminatory. And adaptability means that when society needs a change, learning should also evolve. Proponents of the right to education see it as one of the primary methods of improving the lives of individuals all over the world. Once educated, people are better be able to understand their own rights and advocate for themselves and others. They can be equipped to participate actively in their communities as positive influences and to fulfill their responsibilities as citizens of a free society. Their ability to understand and accept the difference of others is enhanced, and the capacity to improve their financial circumstances increases. So the right to education, in a shorter explanation, is a fundamental human right because it is an empowerment right and everyone has the right to education. Meaning of women in education. Women in education refers to every form of education that aims at improving the knowledge and skill of women and girls. It includes general education at schools and colleges, vocational and technical education, professional education, health education. Women education encompasses both literary and non-literary education. Educated women are capable of bringing socio-economic changes. The Constitution of almost all democratic countries guarantees equal rights to both men and women. Primary education is now a fundamental right. When a woman or a girl is ensured of her rights, the society at large is ensured of its sustainability. Realizing the importance of women education, the government and many non-government organizations took a lot of projects to spread women education. Literacy programs are being taken in favor of women. Meaning, a woman education, from the word itself, women education, is a form of education that aims at improving knowledge and skills of women and girls. So here are the importance of women education. Economic development and prosperity, where education will empower women to come forward and contribute towards the development and prosperity of the country. Economic empowerment, so long as women remain backward and economically dependent to men, the helpless condition of them cannot be changed. Economic empowerment and independence will only come through proper education and employment of women. Improve life. Education helps a woman to live a good life. Her identity as an individual would never get lost. She can read and learn about her rights. Her rights would not get trodden down. The life or condition of women would improve a lot if we take a broad outlook in the field of female education. Improve health. Educated girls and women are aware of the importance of health and hygiene. Through health education, they are empowered to lead a healthy lifestyle. Educated mothers can take better care of both herself and her baby. Dignity and honor. Educated women are now looked upon with dignity and honor. They become a source of inspiration for millions of young girls who make them their role models. Justice. Educated women are more informed of their rights for justice. It would eventually lead to decline in instances of violence and injustice against women such as dowry, forced prostitution, child marriage, female feticide, and etc. Choice to choose a profession of her choice. Educated women can prove successful in the fields of life. A girl child should get equal opportunity for education so that she can plan to become a successful doctors, engineers, nurses, cook, or choose a profession of her choice. Alleviate poverty. Women education is a prerequisite to alleviate poverty. Women need to take equal burden of the massive task of eliminating poverty. This would demand massive contribution from educated women. There cannot be much social and economic changes unless girls and women are given the rights for education. Importance of girls-women education. Gender inequality in education is extreme. Girls are less likely to access school, to remain in school, or to achieve in education. Education helps men and women claim their rights and realize their potential in the economic, political, and social arenas. It is also the most powerful way to lift people out of poverty. Education plays a particularly important role as a foundation for girls' development towards adult life. It should be an intrinsic part of any strategy to address the gender-based discrimination against women and girls that remains prevalent in many societies. The following links will further explain the necessity of girls-women education. Education is a right, cultural changes, better health and awareness, poverty reduction, education is a right. Everybody has the right to education, which has recognized since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. The right to free and compulsory primary education without discrimination and of good quality has been reaffirmed in all international human rights conventions. Many of these same instruments encourage, but not guarantee, post-primary education. These rights have been further elaborated to address issues like quality and equity. Moving forward, the issues of what the right to education means and exploring how it can be achieved. As a minimum, states must ensure that basic education is available, accessible, acceptable, and adaptable for all. The right of girls to education is one of the most critical of all rights because education plays an important role in enabling girls and women to secure other rights. So the importance of girls-women education is that gender inequality in education is extreme. Education is a right. It helps both men and women know their rights and potentials. It lifts people out of the poverty. Education is a foundation for girls' development towards adult life. Education will be part of any strategy to address gender-based discrimination against women and girls.
Good day, everyone. My name is Charlene Bactal, and I will continue our report about basic concept of women in society and right to education. So let's proceed to cultural changes. Cultural changes. Cultural and traditional values stand between girls and their prospect for education. The achievement of girls' right to education can address of some societies deeply rooted inequalities, which condemn millions of girls to a life without quality education, and therefore also all too often to a life of missed opportunities. Improving educational opportunities for girls and women helps them to develop skills that allow them to make decisions and influence community change in key areas. One reason for denying girls and women their right to an education is rarely articulated by those in charge. That is their fear of the power that girls will have through education. That there is still some resistance to the idea that girls and women can be trusted with education. Education is also seen in some societies as a fear of change, and now with globalization, the fear becomes even greater fear to lose the cultural identity, fear of moving forward, the unknown or the unwanted, and fear of dissolving in the many others. Better health. Basic education provides girls and women with an understanding of basic health, nutrition, and family planning, giving those choices and the power to decide over their own lives and bodies. Women's education leads directly to a better reproductive health, improved family health, economic growth for the family and for society, as well as lower rates of child mortality and malnutrition. It is also key in the fight against the spread of HIV and AIDS. So let's proceed to poverty reduction. Educating girls and women is an important step in overcoming poverty. Inequality and poverty are not inevitable. The focus on poverty reduction enables the right to education to be a powerful tool in making a change in the lives of girls and women. Poverty has been universally affirmed as chaotical to the enjoyment of human rights, and it has visible gender profiles. The main reason for this is the fact that poverty results from violations of human rights, including the right to education, which disproportionately affect girls and women. Various grounds of discrimination combine, trapping girls in a vicious downward circle of denied rights. Girls' education. A lifelong to development. Education is one of the most critical areas of empowerment for women. As both the Kairos and Beijing conferences affirm, it is also an area that offers some of the clearest examples of discrimination women suffer. Among children not attending school, there are twice as many girls as boys. And among illiterate adults, there are twice as many women as men. Offering girls basic education is one sure way of giving them much greater power of enabling them to make the genuine choices over the kinds of lives they wish to live. The Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women establish it as a basic human right. That women might have the chance of a healthier and happier life should be reason enough for promoting girls' education. However, there are also important benefits of society as a whole. An educated woman has the skills, information, and self-confidence that she needs to be a better parent, worker, and citizen. An educated woman is, for example, like to marry at a later age and have few children. Cross-country studies show that an extra year of schooling for girls reduces fertility rates by 5 to 10%, and the children of an educated mother are more likely to survive. For example, the infant mortality rate of a babies whose mothers have received primary education is half that of children whose mothers are illiterate. An educated woman will also be more productive at work and better paid, and that the dividend for educational investment is often higher for women than men. Studies from number of countries suggest that an extra year of schooling will increase a woman's future earnings by about 50% compared with 11% for a man. Over recent decades, there has certainly been significant progress in girls' education. Between 1970 and 1992, combined primary and secondary enrollment for girls in developing countries rose from 38% to 68%, with particularly high rates in East Asia, 83%, and Latin America, 87%. But there is still some way to go. In the least developed countries, enrollment rates are only 47% at the primary level and 12% at the secondary level. What would it take to improve girls' success to education? Experience in scores countries shows the importance, among other things, of parental and community involvement. Families, communities must be important partners with schools in developing curriculum and managing children's education. Locals and flexible timetables. Basic education should be free or cost earlier. Where possible, there should be stipends and scholarships to compensate families for the loss of girls' household labor. Also, school hours should be flexible so children can help at home and still attend classes. Schools close to home with women teachers. Many parents worry about girls traveling long distance on their own. Many parents also prefer to have daughters taught by women. Preparation for school. Girls do best in way they receive early childhood care, which enhances their self-esteem and prepares them for school. Relevant curricula. Learning material should be relevant to the girls' background and be in the local language. They should also avoid reproducing gender stereotypes. Girls' education promotes sustainable development. When girls gain access to education, they acquire important knowledge that gives them greater potential for employment and income earning as adults. Even with limited schooling, the importance of education can be observed. Calculations show that for each additional year of schooling, a girl in a low-income country will increase her future income by 10 to 20%. As a result, girls can also play a more active role in the political and social debate and in development of their own society. Mothers who have attended school themselves make greater efforts to ensure that their own children attend school. Education for girls can be started of an upward spiral and lead women and their families out of poverty. Countries with greater gender equality and fewer gender differences in the primary and secondary schools are more likely to have higher economic growth. An educated female population increases a country's productivity and importance of girls' education. There was a time when people thought that it was not necessary to educate girls. Now we have begun to realize that girls' education is essential. The modern age is the age of awakening of girls. They are trying to compete with men in all spheres of life. There are many people who oppose girls' education. They say that the proper sphere of girls is the home. So they argue that the money spent on girls' education is wasted. This view is wrong because girls' education can bring about a silent resolution in the society. There is several advantages of girls' education. Grown-up educated girls can play an important role in the development of their country. They can share the burden of men in a different walk of life. When girls are well educated, not forced to marry during childhood, they will be able to serve the society as writers, educators, teachers, lawyers, doctors, administrators, politicians, scientists, and much more. They can work at banks, hospitals, government offices, and large business. They can play an important role during war. Education is a boon to girls in this age of economic crisis. Gone are the days of plenty and prosperity. Now, it is difficult for the people of the middle class to make both ends meet. After marriage, educated girls can add to the income of their husbands. If a woman is educated, she can earn a living after the death of her husband. Girls' education. Girls' education is necessary for making the home a happy place. Amongst life blossom, he is blessed with well-educated women as wife and mother. Educated girls can brighten the future of their country by the good upbringing of their children. Education gives a woman freedom of thought. It broadens her outlook and makes her aware of her duties and responsibilities. Education empowers a grown-up girl to become economically independent. They will be able to stand up for their rights. Girls have all the rights to get educated. Empowerment of girls and women is necessary to fight against the problem of gender inequality. Education of rural girls is equally important. The rural girls are not getting ample of opportunity for education. Education of these girls would have a positive impact both economy and society. Many people say that girls should not go in for degrees. They are wrong because girls have already proved their worth in all walks of life. There is no reason why girls should not get same kind of education as men, but they should not neglect their duties at home. So girls must have knowledge of domestic child psychology. What is the human right to education? Every woman, man, youth, and child has the human right to education, training, and information, and to other fundamental human rights dependent on the realization of the human right to education. Equality of access to all levels of education is crucial to empowering women and girls to participate in economic, social, and political life of their societies. Education unlocks a woman's potential and is accompanied by improvements in health, nutrition, and well-being of women and their families. Despite widespread against that all people have fundamental human right to education, 100 billion children, at least 60% of them girls, do not have access to primary education. 960 million adults in the world are illiterate, and more than two-thirds of them are women. Women and girls continue to face discrimination at all levels of education, a fact which poses tremendous obstacles to their advancement. The human rights at issue. Human rights relating to education are set out in basic human rights treaties and include the human right to free and compulsory elementary education and to readily available forms of secondary and higher education. The human right to freedom from discrimination based on sex or any other status in all areas and levels of education, including access to scholarships and fellowships and to equal access to career development, continuing education, and vocational training. The human right to information about health, nutrition, reproduction, and family planning. Equal opportunity in women education. Since the problem of equal opportunity for women and men transfers sections, affecting the activities of all the specialist sections of the maize and directly managed organizations, the minister appointed a working group for equal opportunities for women and men at the beginning of 2008, comprising employees of not only the maize but also of not-for-profit organizations and specialized academic workplaces. The main objective of the working group is to prepare a long-term vision for the activities of the maize in this area on the basis of the policies of gender equality as a relatively achieve gender equal education and support new in the area of gender research and the position political team in order of women in science as a result. Equal opportunity to women benefits all. Women should be given equal opportunity in education like men, and they should not be isolated from any development activities. Women covers almost half population of the country. Means, if women are uneducated, the half country is uneducated, which bring poor socio-economic condition. So, women's education is very necessary, guys. Through the women education, the social and economic development will be faster. To spread the importance and improve the level of women education all over the country, countrywide national propaganda and awareness programs are very necessary. An educated woman can educate her whole family, the whole country. One big cause of inequality is that South Asian economies do not reach their full potential in Bangladesh. For example, women account for most unpaid work and are overrepresented in the low productivity informal sector and among the poor. Raising the female employment rate could contribute significantly to Bangladesh achieving its goal in 2021 of becoming a middle-income country. Yet, even middle-income countries in South Asia could prosper for more women in the workforce. Women represent only 34% of the employed population in Sri Lanka, a figure that has remained static for decades. They also matter because opportunities empower women more broadly in society, and this can have a positive impact on others. If women have a bigger say in how household money is spent, this can ensure more of it is spent on children. Improvements in the education and health of women have been linked to better outcomes for their children in countries as varied as Nepal and Pakistan. In India, giving power to women at the local government level to lead to increases in public services such as water and sanitation. Just as the cause of inequality are huge, so is the challenge in overcoming it. The gaps in opportunity between men and women are the product of pervasive and stubborn social norms that privilege men and boys to access to opportunities and resources over women and girls. What is therefore required is a sustained, comprehensive drive to end inequality. This will require addressing multiple and reinforcing barriers to equality among families, job, and product markets, as well as among formal and informal institutions. A first step would be to improve the access of girls to education to reduce the inbuilt disadvantages that they have from birth onwards. This is recognized by many across South Asia, and there has been a lot of progress. A second step would be to address market and institutional failures that lock women into low return, highly vulnerable forms of employment and of self-employment. Much can be achieved by encouraging the creation of a large number of jobs that are seen as suitable and safe for women. In Bangladesh, for example, the ready-made garment industry has brought into the labor market large numbers of young women. Studies have shown that this has also resulted in delayed marriage and lower fertility rates among girls. In Nepal, for example, road repair and maintenance after last year's devastating earthquake has been done by female and make work crows. The cleaning of drains, filling pits, clearing minor blockades, and planting trees has provided a steady income, and the employed women have also gained greater respect in their families and communities, giving them more voice in decision making. So this violation has a multitude of negative effects, from poor education and health to discouraging women from promoting to better paid jobs. Many countries have adopted progressive legislations, but many laws are not enforced. The public and law enforcement are largely unaware of them, and structural weaknesses in police and judicial systems deny women access to justice and render laws ineffective.